Hello and welcome back to the pod. Holy shit, do we have a good one today? Like, there's been an insane amount of new events that have happened in the past 72 hours. Big one here in home, Quebec introduced their new lockdown rules. Bev, what do we got?
Well, it's I guess they've started to put a curfew in on all their lockdown. So I think if I remember right, it's 5 in the morning till like 8 o'clock at night or something like that. So you're only allowed out and about if you're an essential worker or like one of those type folks. But
Yeah, it looks like you can walk your dog within 1 kilometer of your home after curfew. There you go. There you go. There's something.
I can see why Quebec had to go and do that though, because like I'm sure most of the people there just don't give a shit. Like couldn't be bothered, right? So they got to do something pretty extreme. Because I know in Ontario they didn't they decided not to do that, but and I think generally speaking, Quebec is a lot more laissez faire, right? So they just do whatever they want anyway.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I don't understand about curfew is like, how does that stop the spread of anything? Like, the people who are going to go out and go see their friends, they're still going to go out and go do stuff that they're not supposed to. But instead of just stopping in for a visit for like a couple of hours and then going home, now they're just going to fucking sleep over.
Yeah, I
They're
think
just
it
going to.
just honestly, all it really does is just give them more power as far as ticketing people. I think that's really the difference. Is that I know when they're just under like a regular lockdown, a lot of the things like people don't realize the wording and a lot of the things going on like both like in Quebec and Ontario and in other countries is like a lot of times it's guidelines and suggestions technically and not really law. So I think once they go to a curfew, it gives them a little bit more kind of leeway with what they can do with ticketing people. And like you said, if people in Quebec are basically not giving a fuck, this is a great way to give the police the power to just hammer them with the tickets and stuff like that. I don't know. It's crazy to me. Like there, on one hand, like I get it, but on the other hand, it's like how far are we gonna go here with basically having like no freedom whatsoever? Like it's insane to me. Like I don't think it's. I don't know. It's like it's crazy. I know there's people out there protesting and stuff like that. Like the first night they had people in Quebec in the streets, but there's also people that are like super okay with just being told to like not move a muscle, and I don't know. I'm just it doesn't sit right with me.
Well,
It's weird.
the thing I want to understand with this is, and I think it's worth a deep dive, is like where are all these coronavirus cases coming from? Because if I remember right, not too long ago, like the vast majority of them were just coming out of long-term care homes. So if like those people already live on curfew and lockdown, so I mean, what's it gonna do if you implement more of that, right? So that's I don't know. That's the thing that seems like the disconnect for me is like they're just implementing. I'm concerned they're implementing uh, these broad policies without doing like perhaps having the due diligence, but not acting, in a more targeted manner.
Yeah, I think they don't know. I think that's kind of what the reality is. I think that they are at the point now where the numbers are continuously going up and they still don't know. But like once again, when you do dive a little deeper into the numbers, you do realize that like, I mean, the deaths are what matters. Like cases are cases. Like people get freaked out about cases, but like 90+%, whatever that number is, of cases is just someone getting sick for a week or two, or they tested positive and don't even have symptoms. They just got told they had to get tested because they worked with somebody who was in close contact or whatever, right? So that's the thing is people are getting like scared by these case numbers and like you should be looking at the deaths. If we had like crazy amounts of deaths every day, like hundreds and hundreds of deaths every day, like I get it, but like I think we're having like it's like 20, 25, like four, like it's like these like
Yeah.
I know like these are people's lives. I don't want to like make it trivial, but like it happens like if you're 80 plus, like it's sort of like you're a candidate. Sorry, but like that's kind of how it is for any disease, not just COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the main point of this. Like, it doesn't make any sense that, like, yes, the largest group of people who are going to be catching COVID are between 20 and 39. Like, that's an insanely large demographic group that they throw out there. But like, Of course, that's the largest group because those people are the ones going out and about the most. Those are the biggest workforce out there. So of course they're going to be doing stuff. Like, so we've had 17,000 deaths. So like, I just want to see if like where I can find just like the death rates and the majority. Like I was looking this up before. The majority of people who died are in long-term care facilities,
or they're 70
like,
plus.
Yeah, but the majority of them are in long-term care facilities. And
This is another interesting note while you're looking that up. I noticed they said 15 million people have been tested so far, so half the population's gotten a test at some point.
yeah, but like the thing is, like I got tested, I don't know, 3 or 4 times so far, so I'm for those 15 million. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's anywhere where they have tracked like unique tests. Like I'd like to see that number where we like to get the actual number of people, because I do know a few people who've had more than one test. So like 15 million, you know, what is it really? Is it 5 million?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that makes sense because I guess generally speaking, if you're getting tested, it's because you're going into, you know, like you work in a hospital or whatever, right? You're in a vulnerable environment. So it's probably the same few people, like, or few in quotations, kind of getting tested over and over.
Yeah, I knew someone. I still know them, but they worked specifically with elderly people, actually like teaching them about technology before all this happened, and then obviously during this, they've tried to keep up with that as much as possible because these people, that's their only way to reach the outside world now. And yeah, they were required basically every 2 weeks to go. So when they were allowed back in those facilities for the short few months before they got locked down again, that person I knew was going every 2 weeks. So there was like 3 months worth of that. So there's a lot of people in that situation, I think, right?
Oh yeah, and like what I don't understand, and this is ridiculous in my standpoint. Like, so I've heard it now, like very anecdotal evidence, but 2 times this has happened where someone in the household tests positive for COVID. So the other family members go and get tested for COVID, and they both test negative. They refuse to retest the person who tested positive, even though they don't have any symptoms or anything like that. Refuse to retest them, but make everyone in that household lock down for 2 weeks. You have to follow the rules. You don't want to get the tickets or anything like that. But if the fucking one person it tested positive and the other 2 didn't, they sleep in this, and like one of them sleeps in the same bed as the other person. What do you mean they don't have COVID? Like, how does that happen? Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't make any sense. Like, these tests aren't 100%, and like you should be okay opening up to the data. Like, sometimes there are false positives when you are getting tested. Like, for some people, for this person, their job made them get tested every single week. So every week they're going for a test, and then one of those weeks, over 25 weeks, they test positive. 1 in 25, a mistake. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. But the rules are absolutely not. You stay in lockdown for those full 2 weeks. We will not retest you and confirm that you have it or don't have it. Fucking stupid. Just go get the fucking test again just to be sure. Like, why not? If everyone else in your household tests negative, chances are that was a fucked up test. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It's also like it speaks to a lot of the transmission side of things too, right? Because maybe that person really is positive, but like, you know, the people that they live with necessarily didn't catch it too. So like, what does that mean? I just think there's like a lot of unanswered questions here, and I feel like in some ways we're learning a lot and we're changing the way we look at things, but in other ways I feel like Canada and US and a lot of different countries and stuff like that are just going after the same really simplistic ways of looking at things that they were in March, and haven't really, you know, like there's so much more data out there now, and I think we got to start utilizing more of it. And that's part of how we find a way back to some normal life, right?
I think it's like half measures. Like going back to on one of the last podcasts, we talked a bit about New Zealand and what they had done, and they kind of went, you know, full tilt in their restrictions, like travel restrictions as an example. And in Canada, US, everything's just a half measure, right? We're not really nipping the issue in the bud. Everyone's just doing enough so it looks like we're doing it, or we're implementing policy, but you know, we still have all these little loopholes here and there. So That's just kind of the impression I've gotten over the last little while, where well, even with Ontario right now being in lockdown, it's way more open. Like, it seems business as usual versus the last lockdown back in March, which everything did pretty much grind to a halt. So it's not quite what they're saying it is.
Yeah. I'm just looking to try to find deaths. Right. Hospitalizations to date. So look at that. If you are over the age of 70, you account for 54% of the hospitalizations. If you're over and then another 16.5% if you're over the age of 60. Like, obviously, this is the case.
Yeah.
Like,
and you can click deaths, I think. Yeah, deceased there. Sorry, guys. Just for anyone who's only listening, we're actually looking at a screen on the Government of Canada website here. So a bar chart kind of showing us the different metrics we're looking for here. So what do we got here?
So between in Canada, hospitalizations, Canada 0 to 19, 3 people died. 20 to 29, 24 people died. 30 to 39, 47 people died. And 40 to 49, 118 people died. So between 1 and 50, you are sitting at less than 200 people died. 1 in 50. And then you got 400 people died in their 50s, 1,100 died in your 60s, 3,000 died in your 70s, and 11,000 died in their 80 plus.
Yeah, so we're talking 14,600 people, 70 plus, have died out of the total 16,400 people. So that's like almost all the deaths being 70 plus. Like, what does that work out to? 88%? 89%? Yeah, so I said 90 earlier, and I was just guessing, and it's pretty freaking close.
That's really close. And, like, it's bad. Like, I hate to, like, limit anyone's life. Like, no one deserves to die from this or anything like that. Like, of course not. But I mean, people in their 70s and 80s who are dying from this, like, I wish, like, I'm sure there's a chart somewhere, but I don't see it right here. What percentage of these people who died, of the, like, let's say 80 plus, the 11,600 people who are 80 plus who died, what percentage of those people were in nursing homes? Like, if you're in a nursing home, you're not doing good. Like, if you're, like, my grandmother lives alone in her house, and she's fucking 85. She's healthy. But these 80 plus people are living in nursing homes. They're not healthy. They can't survive on their own. Like, if you are physically fit and you can survive on your own, chances are you're not going to be fucking dying from this. Like, these people are dying because they're old and they're in nursing homes. They're going to die from fucking something, whether it be COVID or fucking whatever. Like, this is crazy. Like, since it began,
Yeah.
less than 200 people between the ages of 0 and 49 have died here in Canada.
Yeah,
less than 200
those
people.
are the people who are, financially suffering the worst, right? Like, those are the working years people, right? Like, and students and like that's what seems bananas to me. And once again, I don't want to sound like we're trivializing people dying, because it's awful. But from my experience with family members and things like that who've been in this situation, exactly what you said. In a normal year, these people would just die from a cold or from getting pneumonia, or they would die from that. They just happen to be dying from COVID this year, but it's no different than if they just got the flu last year and died. Like, it's still awful they're dying, but it is becoming insane to me that people that are in the prime of their life, their working years, their family years, schooling, that are the ones that are suffering the most as far as, especially on the financial side of things, right? And then the mental health side of being, in society. Those are the years where you spend that time. And it's just hard because, obviously I'm in that group, so I'm biased, but every group is suffering in their own unique way, I think, is what it really breaks down to, right? Like, when you think about people with kids, like, it honestly, I don't have kids, but I know friends who do, and it breaks my heart that, that they have young children that are experiencing, a real shit time in those young years where you should be able to go play with your friends at the park and they're being told no and don't understand. Like it's insane. But I just think there's got to be a different solution here, because the problem, like you said, it seems localized, to that lower region of the chart we're looking at, and it's not really affecting, in a major way, folks in their 30s and 40s and 50s and even 60s, right? Like,
Yeah, like
this is why a
like
more targeted approach, I think, would be. It makes so much more sense. Like open it up and like get things back to normal, quote unquote normal. But then do the lockdowns at nursing homes, at retirement homes. That's where it's locked down, where you're making sure the people coming in, like, you're getting tested every day. Focus all your testing resources there instead. Like it doesn't. It's like having someone like one of us going, because we're going out to visit someone, going to a facility to and we have to get a COVID test. That's a waste of a test. It doesn't matter.
Well, here's another idea. Like PSW, like personal support worker, those people who are working in nursing homes, they make less than $20 an hour Canadian. Okay? So far Canada's spent whatever, like the last time I looked, it was over $400 billion on COVID. How about paying those PSWs and those nurses and those doctors, whoever's working in those long-term care facility, good money, and they just have to quarantine? Like, hey, I'll pay you $40 an hour to look after this until this COVID thing goes away, but you got to live in a hotel away from your family. You can't do shit. You can't do anything. You're on lockdown, but I'm going to pay you double to fucking do this. Everyone's going to sign up for it. They're like, yeah, 100% I'm going to sign up for it. It's just like, why do people go work in the oil sands or go work in a mine in northern Quebec or wherever? Yeah, no one fucking wants to do that. No one wants to go live underground, but they do it because it pays so well. Why would people want to go work in these nursing homes, like be on lockdown, like you can't go see your family and friends, whatever? Well, they do it for money. Of course they do it for money. And that would cost way less than locking everything down, shutting down. Like I saw that news report that 10,000 restaurants closed last year in Ontario alone. Like that's a lot of money. Like, yeah, sure, probably half of them were going to close anyways because they're shitty fucking restaurants. But I mean, that's an extra 5,000 good ones that you didn't want to close, It just doesn't make any sense. Just like you said, Bev, like a more targeted approach to handle what's actually happening. Like looking at this one right here, so we got 500 people total have been admitted to the ICU under 40 years old since this began. Like that's still a lot of people. But that's not that much of the $6,400.
Yeah,
and these are the people who are working.
Yeah, and the chart you see there too, where it says admitted to ICU, 80 plus is only 871 people. Yeah, because they're not making it to the ICU, right? Like, it's like you gotta kind of know what you're looking for when you look at these charts too, right? Like they tell a story, and I just don't know how people like Doug Ford aren't seeing this story. Like we're just some regular Joes, man.
They see the story, but I mean that story doesn't scare people. Like here's a great example. I think it was Global or City or one of the news places throws out a news article there saying whatever 5,000 new cases or 4,500 new cases, a new record, and then halfway through the article they say, oh, this includes whatever 400 or 600 cases from the other day from a recording error. Well, then, so it's not a fucking new record, is it? It's in the 3,000s like it is every other day. Now, 3,000 people out of a population of 15 million? Yeah. That's not that high.
But do you see the recoveries, though? Like, that's why a lot of people don't scroll down in the article and read the recoveries. And that's the one thing that I've been saying since, early on in this and is like, what's the net change, though, on a daily basis? Like, yeah, 3,200 cases, but then you look at recoveries and it's like 2,800 or something. Like, we've been floating around, this is Canada numbers we have on the screen here, but like in Ontario, we've been floating around like 20,000 cases active for like weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it's like huge amounts of people are recovering at the same time. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how people don't do that simple math. And it's just, it's not... It's not like if it was like 3,000 cases and 3,000 deaths a day, then yeah, I think we should definitely be locking down and risking it all to protect the people. But I just don't see it here. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, just anyone with a logical mind looking at this, like, I don't know how you can ignore the reality that's in front of us.
Oh, but Big D, you don't understand. Like, the reason why the numbers are the way they are is because of the precautions that they've taken. Like that's always the argument that they're gonna give you. Like, oh yeah, like what we're doing is working. Well, what you're doing if what you're doing is working, then these old people wouldn't be dying at this rate. Like they're dying because they're old, and something's gonna get them. Like just
I don't know about you guys. One thing I've noticed is like in the last, because basically we're pretty much at a year now with COVID. I didn't get a cold or anything, like or like like runny like a stuffed nose or anything at all this year. So do you think that's due to everybody wearing masks, or do you think it's because everybody's washing their hands all the time and sanitizing?
I think it's a little of both. I myself got sick, but that was an anomaly, and I know exactly. I'm 90% sure I know what day and how I got sick. It's me being a fucking idiot, and then I got sick. Besides that, like, of course, everyone's just sanitizing their hands.
I would say like a few things. First of all, personally for myself, 2020 was a year where I made a lot of health changes and stuff like that too, which I think helped with my overall, ability to fight this stuff off. Two,
Big D's now medium D.
Yeah,
medium D
exactly. You definitely changed my name, but I think that the cleanliness that everyone's taking is definitely different. Obviously making an impact. Also, the fact that we're just not going as many places, being exposed to as much, as we normally are. But then the argument that I keep hearing, and I actually see, a little bit of truth to it, is that your body actually needs to be exposed to small amounts of bacteria and kind of dirt, as your day goes on, and to keep that immunity high. So what's going to happen if we do get to a point where it's like, okay guys, masks off, and then everyone's body has not been dealing with like any bacteria or any kind of germs, and suddenly like people are going to be getting even more sick from like what should normally just be a regular cold. Like, I don't know, I just feel like you got to be really careful, man. There's two sides of the coin on all of this, and I'm like, I don't imagine, that I have all the answers that you guys do either. And I'm trying to see both sides of it. Like, I really am, and I just feel like, Canada and Ontario, like, we're doing the same fucking things over and over again and expecting a different result. Like, clearly it's not working, and like, oh, we'll double down. We're gonna have a curfew now because COVID, only comes out at night. Like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, I just don't see it. Like, I don't see how that's the solution, that the best they could come up with. These, you see Doug Ford I like Doug Ford, just for the record, but like, you see him on Twitter, and he's talking about, oh, we were all weekend, in the cabinet, and we were having the meetings and all this. Like, what the fuck? You came out and just said exactly what we knew you were gonna say. Like what did you actually talk about? Did you actually explore anything new? No, you're doing the same shit, and it's just frustrating to me. Like why are we not trying anything different?
Yeah, but that's the question. Like, what do you do at this point? Like, you've already spent the money that you were given for this. Like, you got to just double down on it. Just like anything else. Like, you're doubling down on these policies that they're putting in place, because you have to, because you can't admit that you were wrong. Because if you admit that you're wrong, then your opponents are just going to capitalize on that come next election. And
what's the story of lawsuits, though? Like, if I'm a small business and I just lost my shirt because you said to do this and it turned out to be wrong, and you actually admitted it, right? Like,
tough tits.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's it.
Much.
Yeah, you like doing business in this country, like, you have to abide by our rules. Speaking of that, like, how about right here? New York Stock Exchange today. Bev, why don't you give us a little rundown on what's happening in some Chinese stocks today?
I have absolutely no idea. I haven't read any of this.
Oh, so Trump put, my understanding, Trump put in a couple weeks ago, whatever, executive order banning any companies with ties to the Chinese military off the New York Stock Exchange. So they're now delisted off of there. So a bunch of companies are now being delisted from the U.S. or New York Stock Exchange.
I know from a while ago when I was reading about this, because I know they were concerned about some of these companies were basically being used where effectively money laundering. So, and they were using the money that was coming out of it to invest in military technology, various military technologies, and not so much like kinetic, like buying big guns, but buying like computer equipment and more cyber warfare type equipment and things like that. So It makes sense. I know Trump had been pushing this hard that there's so many of these companies that are just bullshit, basically. And we even saw this when we were looking at Chinese companies maybe 2 years ago. So many of them were just like it'd be a company that allegedly does, like bio generated, like burning like wood chips and stuff for energy and stuff like that. And really what they'd be doing is just funneling money back into some parent company that does, like sonar systems or something like that. So it's all kinds of sketchy stuff going on with those. And that's why when you look at all these, like NIO, for instance, like what some of these big Chinese automotive companies that are blowing up right now on the exchanges, like what's really going on behind the scenes, because you have absolutely no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all the filings, if you actually deep dive some of these companies, like it looks legit through the filings, but in terms of what's actually happening day to day versus what's being reported to the regulators are two very different things.
So 3 invested banks saying, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, I guess New York Stock Exchange pussied out. Have to do a little deep dive into that. Sorry, boys.
It's probably so much money to be made on those stocks. I mean, like the investment banks make a fortune, like doing all the investor relations type stuff and all the transactions and picking up all the placement fees and all that type of stuff. And then the exchanges are making all the money on people buying them. So it's, I don't know. I mean, greed is going to dominate over, altruism in this case.
Yeah. Well. Senior U.S. officials are discussing whether to add Alibaba to that. Speaking of Alibaba, whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah, where's Jack Ma?
He's gone. Like nobody's seen him since it's either August or October, one of the two. But either way, it's been months. So they're like, oh, he's just laying low because he was criticizing the CCP. It's like, I don't know, man. Like he could be laying.
Maybe
6
he's hanging
feet
out
deep,
with Epstein
man.
somewhere,
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So Jack Ma, was he the CEO or he's Alibaba guy, right? Yeah. And
their largest single shareholder.
Yeah, and in like a country that's not supposed to be a capitalist country, and then this guy just literally disappeared, and there's not even a lot of news around. I'll just see a story once in a while where it's like, hey, where's this goof, and then I haven't seen anything else about it. It's like it's so suppressed, it's wild.
Hey, we got a NPR right here. Falling out of the radar.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure if it's NPR, it's fine, guys, no big deal. He's on vacation, guys. Fucking NPR.
He's on vacation at the bottom of the fucking ocean somewhere.
Yeah, he went on a cruise.
Yeah, you put on these cement boots and just have a rip there, bud. Well,
Yeah,
he's a weird looking guy though, eh? Like,
yeah, he's a bit of an odd fellow, that's for sure. He looks almost like an alien. I wonder if he went back to his home planet or something.
Whoa. Chinese government considering to nationalize Alibaba and the Ant Group?
Sounds like they already did, bud.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Wow.
Yeah,
China
just told him
it's such a
this is ours
weird
now.
place. Like I just know through work. So like we deal with a lot of Chinese expats and in some cases current Chinese, and it's a weird environment to be in. Like really, really weird. It's like because there's always stress over like doing business dealings and just in itself, but now you have this added layer of how do I make sure I appease the CCP so they don't friggin' blast me off into space with Jack Ma.
October 24th, he gave that speech criticizing it.
No, there it is.
Because they were trying to do a new investment bank, I guess. Well, that didn't turn out too well for you, did it?
This is the type of stuff that they should be like. There's so much like crap being reported about the U.S. and like Trump tweeted this and that. It's like who gives a shit? Like this is the kind of stuff that's way more interesting. It's like how does this billionaire one of the most wealthy people in the world, started this, pretty impressive service, pretty impressive company.
Yeah.
And this foreign government just says, no, you're done. See you later.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, it was too good, so we're probably going to nationalize it, and you're just gone. That's it.
This is
See
ours
you later,
now.
guys.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, well,
wild.
just to kind of just touch on it, I don't want to go too deep, but yeah, Trump isn't tweeting about anything anymore. It sounds like, folks. So, I'm just gonna kick this one off by saying, whoever's listening to this, whatever way you lean, take that out of it and realize that the current sitting president of the U.S. has been censored. That's insane. That is insane. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. It's insane that that a private company is able to do that.
Yeah, and look at this, for our listeners that are watching on YouTube here, even Trump's best friend Merkel has his back on this one, because it's not up to Twitter to decide who can and cannot speak. That's
the thing that I find the most concerning out of this. If Twitter says we don't want you on the platform because we don't like what you're saying, that's okay, fine, no problem. But then he goes over to Parler, which is like a Twitter for right-wing people. And so he goes on, makes an account or gets set up on Parler. I think they already had something set aside for him. So he sets that up, and then Google Play Store pulls Twitter or Parler off. Apple pulls it off. It's like literally anywhere he goes, they're just attacking. So
and then
this
Amazon
is where
pulled their web hosting.
Exactly. Too. And so this is where the problem is now, where it's like this is politicized, it's politicized attacks on these industries. This should not be allowed at all. This is what's concerning.
But this is how the system is so broken, because in a regular, let's say, world, businesses get permission from the government to operate within their borders and sell to their citizens. That's how it works. That's how it's set up to work. But especially in the US, where you have lobbyists and corporations who can act as individual people and have individual rights, now they are dictating what is and is not reported on. As you can see with Trump, they have the power now. You've shifted the power away from the government to the people more. And for now, I'm sure the backlash of Twitter banning Trump is going to be horrific for them, because they're just going to get regulated to shit everywhere across the world now, because every world leader just watched Trump. 80 million people or whatever following him on Twitter just get shut down off every single platform. You don't think right now that they're all writing policy right now to prevent that again from ever happening? Of course they are. Of course they are. And if they're not, well, tough shit, then you can't have access to our country. And that's probably what the backlash is going to look like. That's a scary backlash, where the internet's going to be regulated by country over and over again. It already is in some extent. But it's just going to be more and more. It's not going to be free and open now, because some fucking tech billionaires think, oh, fuck this guy, I don't like what he says. And what he says is crazy. I'm throwing it out there. What Trump is saying is fucking crazy. But
There's
I mean,
a difference though between you don't like what he says and you not allowing him to say it.
Exactly.
It's insane to me. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter which way you lean on Trump. It's you should be able to go on there and go, hell yeah, brother, Trump 2020 on his tweet. And you should be able to go on there and be like, you're the worst piece of shit ever, But either way, he should be able to say what he's got to say, and then you can react to it. But just to take that out of the equation is insane. A friend texted me the other day when this happened and said, private tech companies are now the government. That's essentially what they're saying, is that we will now tell you what is the news and what isn't the news, and what is true and what is false. And, that was already bullshit. They were flagging, we talked about this a few podcasts back. They were flagging only right-wing politicians. Every single tweet they would tweet, they were flagging. But then we went and we looked at lefties like Bernie and AOC, who were saying equally off the wall shit in the other direction, and nothing is flagged. No, that's all the truth, 100%. And everything that this guy is saying is bullshit, Good morning, America. This might be, misinformation. Literally, Trump could have fucking, said anything, Happy New Year, and they would have had it on there. Like, it was fucking insane. It was just like we were talking about the blanket regulations around COVID. Well, these are just blanket rules around every right wing politician. Like, oh, just flag literally everything they say is bullshit. Like, it disturbs me in a very deep way.
Yeah, this is why, like I was with our good friend, our conspiracy friend, the Don, talking a bit about how the FCC just put out a note, or the White House just forced the FCC to put out a note emphasizing the president's ability to broadcast through, I guess, public channels or whatever, or he has the right to override programming or something like that. So it just makes me think, like, they were ready. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were ready for this. They knew it was going to happen. They've been planning around this, and you have to realize that the people around him aren't dumb. I mean, these are all people who got him into that seat, and he's picking people who are killers. Basically, they're really aggressive, intelligent people, and that's who he's putting around him. So I mean, like, these guys, they got to have some trick up their sleeve. I'm always hopeful they got something that they're cooking.
Yeah, and I would think that they'd have to have something cooking right now. The other thing that I don't understand is, like, do these tech companies just look very short term like that? As in, okay, it's a very favorable next presidency, it's a blue presidency for the next probably 2 terms. Like, it's very rare that it's a 1-term thing like the Trump turnaround, but I mean, who knows with the next one. But eventually it's going to come to a point where, oh, look at this. You guys are too big. You guys have a monopoly. We're just going to disperse you. Like, if they could do it to fucking AT&T 20 years ago, like, oh, AT&T, you're too big. You're a monopoly. Put it out there. How long before Amazon and Google and all those people are just broken up? Like, that's it. It's just going to be done.
Yeah, the Amazon thing is crazy. Like, you think about everything that they have every pie they have their finger in right now. Like, it's like they would be the candidate number 1, I think, on that list personally. Sorry, Bev, I think you were jumping in there.
No, that's basically what I was saying, is like it's already like you can already see the net impact of that. Like, you can for sure think that, like, Biden's looking at this saying, well, that was effective, obviously using social media and all this was super effective for setting that narrative. But, like, man, what if something happens to me, or if I make the wrong step? Like, I better, like, right away they're going to step in and deal with it. And then they're going to be pitching how it's the antitrust type thing where it's good for the consumer and we're trying to help the people and all that kind of bullshit. But the steps are already there. Like, I feel like if you're Mark Zuckerberg or something, like, you're basically flipping a coin. Like, am I gonna back these Democrats who are probably gonna turn around and screw me over, like, generally they do, or am I gonna back this guy who's kind of like this crazy semi-racist like, just wild dude? Like, what do I do? Like, the safe but dumb bet is to back the dumb Democrat. The ballsy bet is to go with this crazy guy. But you can tell they all made that. In my opinion, I think they backed the wrong horse. But
well, Zuck did a good thing up until recently, where he was just jumping on the bandwagon. Where he just stayed completely out of it. He's like, we are not censoring his tweets. Like, Twitter was censoring his tweets, obviously, but he's like, not censoring posts or anything like that. Like, just, who cares? Like, it is not our job. Like, and it goes on there, or in the summertime, like, it's not our job to do that. Like, we are not an editor, because they don't want to lose that status. They want to abide by the newscaster rules. They just want to be an open message board, because they don't want to be liable for all the crazy shit that's said on their platforms, because you are liable for those things if you are under those things, and you can be sued for that if it's false or defamatory or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, like, it's crazy to think, when did Facebook stop being a social media tool and start becoming news? Like for that to even have to be a daily consideration for them is wild. That's not what their platform was designed for, and then it seems like they've now taken that turn where they do think they have, the responsibility and also the right to start censoring and sorry, but they're building a narrative, right? Like, it's no longer just, here's the information, what do you think,
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years as far as regulations against social media companies, because it's coming now. Like, everyone just opened up the floodgates where those 8 companies or 10 companies or whatever banned Trump right at the end, like a sitting president. You ban him from all the platforms. Well, the next sitting president's going to think, well, you do it to them, you do it to me? Absolutely not.
Yep.
Yeah.
No way.
I don't want to go down conspiracy alley here, but just a note, it's not January 20th yet, folks, either. So, until Biden's sitting in that seat, we really don't know what's going to happen. So I'm really interested to see what kind of podcast we have in a week from now, or 9 days from now.
Yeah.
I still think we got some fireworks coming in the next little while.
Well, like one more thing before, I can just show it right here. So, acting head of Homeland Security resigns recently. It's like more of a forced resignation because he was found to be unlawfully holding the position as the temporary head of Homeland Security for the last year and a couple months. But whatever, like he resigned right at the end, but they're getting ready for armed protests in every single state across this country, across the U.S. Like, they're getting ready for it. Like, they have 15,000 National Guard troops in Washington right now, getting ready for a bunch of people with their fucking guns coming out and protesting this election. Like, at the end of the day, like, half the country voted one way, half the country voted the other way, which always fucking happens. But it's getting more and more polarizing every single year, and this one by far the worst one out of all of them. And like, go back and listen to any of our old podcasts. We have some pretty funny ones in regards to those voting machines and everything. But something's going to be happening, and like it's already planned on happening starting on the 15th or the 16th, I think this article said, wherever it was, and they're just getting ready for it. We're living in a TV show right now. We're living in a Netflix miniseries. And
yeah, it's
wild to
literally
think.
season 4 of House of Cards, basically. Not that crappy one where it's just when they wrote Frank off or whatever. Nobody even watched that one, so I don't even know why I'm referencing it. But it's that season. It's basically going down. This is Trump is your Frank Underwood, and it's all coming to the end.
That's wild. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll have to make another one of these in a couple of days, or when the next time something huge pops off. And who knows? Maybe we'll get old conspiracy boy out. I don't think so. I think he's afraid of getting canceled himself. But hey, you never know.
I think we'll be able to get a special guest on. He'll be disguising his voice. But we're going to get a special guest on. He's going to walk us through exactly what's going down in the U.S. right now. Everything that's happened. We're going to pull all the pieces together and give you a real clear story on. Now, this is all alleged. This is just stuff that we've heard, and we're stitching it all together into a more cohesive story. But I think it's going to be a good show. Let's just say that.
I'm excited. Until next time, everyone. Until next time.